Hey everybody, so I wanted to do something a little bit different with this video, and that is I wanted to revisit a book that I wrote in 2020 called Olivine. It's about a quail who goes on a big adventure, and I really related to her a lot. I really kind of put a lot of myself into her and her story, and I've been wanting to share it with you guys for a while. So I figured I would read the whole book and put it on my YouTube channel. So we're going to do it chapter by chapter. If you're interested, I will leave a link in the description to the book on Amazon. It's available there in print, and I think it's available there digitally too. I'm not sure about that. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start by reading you the description on the back of the book. And it says, Olivine is a simple quail. All she wants to do is enjoy her cozy burrow and build a successful jelly business. She doesn't crave adventure like her best friend Hazel, who is off exploring the canyons. But with Hazel gone, Olivine is miserable, and her jelly business isn't doing so hot. One day, she finds her burrow ransacked and a desperate letter on her doorstep. Hazel is in peril. To save her friend, Olivine must deliver a mysterious map to a faraway city of Redwall. Never mind that she doesn't know the first thing about travel and is terrified of heights. Olivine soon discovers just how dangerous the canyons can be. But with the help of a savvy coyote, she may just save the day and learn what it means to be a true friend. All right, so let's open to the first page, and it says Olivine by Tara Robinson. That's yours truly. And then I did do a dedication. It says, this story is dedicated to my incredible mom. Oh, and Al, Copper, Desi, and Bandit. And those were my dogs at the time. And right now, I still have Desi, and I have another dog named Frida. Chapter 1, Mesquite Market. A harsh knock, knock, knock erupted at the front door of the burrow. With a jerk, a quail named Olivine awoke in her armchair. Her feathers stuck out at odd angles, ruffled from sleep. She blinked. Morning light streamed through the row of windows that lined the ceiling. Outside, the wind rustled the spindly creosote bush that sheltered her home. Another knock-knock sounded. Coming, she called, her voice hoarse. With a huff, she pushed herself from the chair and staggered up the steps. She brushed her feathers to look a little more presentable. Then she opened the door. There was no one there. She rubbed at her eyes and peered around the patio. Her table and chairs stood empty, as did the stone path leading down to the wash. The morning chatter of her neighbors filled the air. Olivine scrunched her brows. There had been a knock, of that she was sure. Or was she? She shrugged and closed the door. It was probably a dream, she thought. As she made her way back downstairs, her gaze fell upon the weathered dining table. It was piled with at least 20 jars of her vibrant red prickly pear jelly. She clamped a wing over her beak. Oh no, she said, realizing just how sunny it was. The market! I'm late! Whirling around, she flew back up the steps to the loft. She hurried to the wash basin, splashed her gray face with water, and scrubbed at the drool dried on her beak. Her black crown of feathers was a tangled knot on her head. She combed and combed it. Still, her reflection in the looking-glass was a sad sight. Her red-rimmed eyes had bags under them, and her plumage was a mess. It's my own fault, she thought. She had stayed up well past midnight. It took so long to make jelly. She had to cut, boil, mash, strain, and stir until her wings trembled. Once she had filled the jars, she topped each with a paper cap and tied it with string. She didn't have labels yet. It was on her to-do list. So she had scrawled Little Quail Jelly on the top in pencil. Spruced up as best as she could manage, Olivine scrambled down to the kitchen. She crammed the jars into a handcart and lugged it up the steps. There was a bulletin board near the front door. It was covered with to-do lists, late notices, and 2 postcards from Hazel. Olivine averted her gaze. She couldn't deal with all that now. Locking the door, she set off down the gravelly route that stretched the length of Gold Puppy Wash. The desert sun blazed in the vast blue sky. Though it was spring, the morning was already quite warm. Olivine moved quickly, the cart lurching over bits of speckled granite. Low hills lined the wash, marked by cacti and brush, all homes to critters. Trying not to appear frazzled, Olivine waved at a kit fox sweeping his porch with his tail. She smiled at a pair of horned lizards chatting over a picket fence. As she approached the bend that led to the market, she passed the large Palo Verde tree. It was green, even the smooth trunk, and had long, spindly arms. The voices of at least 100 birds teemed from the apartments nestled in the branches. Hazel's apartment was there, too. Ever since Hazel had left, the sight of the tree gave Olivine a lump in her throat. Around the bend, Mesquite Market came into view. The market took its name from 2 gnarled mesquite trees that bookended the clearing. Under their shade, an assortment of canvas tents and stalls clustered together. From behind a barrel cactus, a stranger to Gold Puppy Wash watched Olivine. He was a sandy-colored jackrabbit with one chewed-up ear. Thump, thump, thump went one of his long feet as Olivine entered the market. He glanced around. Sure that he went unseen, he made his way toward her burrow. The market brimmed with fruit, vegetables, rustic bread, and trinkets galore. The aroma of crepes and roasted peppers wafted from food stalls. Olivine picked her way through the crowd. She shimmied past a stout chuckwalla who clawed through a display of scarves. A hulking badger stepped in her path. He held up a blue embroidered bag with a long strap. "Hello, miss. Can I interest you in this fine item? Stitched with the best quality fabrics," he said. Olivine shook her head and took a step to the side. "No, He hopped in front of her. "It would be perfect for you. My, how it brings out the brown in your feathers." Olivine could feel her face growing hot as she searched for a way around him. "I don't need a bag, but thank you. You can carry anything in it. It's so sturdy, and the price? It's a steal. You'd be doing yourself a disservice not to take advantage of a bargain like this." Olivine let out a great sigh. She was already so late, and the badger refused to let her pass. Dropping her shoulders, she said, all right. How much?" A few moments later, Olivine came around the corner of the row with the new blue bag draped across her body. Ahead was Rooks's tent. Rooks, a lean roadrunner, had orange and blue streaks near his keen eyes. His feathers pointed straight back, so he always seemed in a rush. As he scribbled something on a framed chalkboard, he caught sight of Olivine. "Well, look who it is. I'm so glad you decided to make it, Olivine." He observed the bag. "And you've accessorized." Olivine shook her head and steered the cart behind the table. Rooks's tent held an assortment of jarred delicacies, all displayed in crates. There were pickles, olives, peppers, sun-dried tomatoes, salsas, fruit spreads, and curds. And on the table, he had samples of everything. Rooks set the chalkboard down and rounded on her. "Where have you been? You know most of the business is in the early morning, Olivine. The crowds are thinning out. I told you to be here bright and early." "It's still bright," Olivine said. "Why are you so late?" "I overslept. I was up all night making the jelly." "Why did you wait until the last minute?" Olivine avoided the question. She grabbed a few jars and arranged them in one of the open crates. Rooks's face softened. He placed a wing gently on her shoulder. "Are you still upset about Hazel leaving?" Olivine shrugged off his wing. "That's silly." But the mention of Hazel's name stung. It had been almost 2 whole weeks since Hazel had gone on her trip to the canyons, and in that time she had sent Olivine 2 postcards. They were a bitter reminder of her absence. Still, Olivine had pinned them to her bulletin board. "I suppose now might not be the best time to give you this." Rooks pulled out a paper parcel. "What's this?" she said as she took it. The corners were scuffed. She noted the handwriting. "From Hazel?" He nodded. "I got it from the boat last night when I went to get the deliveries." Olivine set it aside and continued to unload the jelly. Rooks studied her face. Her expression was usually soft and open, if a little bashful, but today she looked different. The dark brown markings on either side of her eyes tended to round with a smile, but now they were stiff and straight. "Aren't you going to open it?" he said. "It's only souvenirs she doesn't want to lug around while she does her very important exploring." Rooks drew in at her sharp tone. "I'm sorry," Olivine said. "Can we just get to work?" Rooks nodded and busied himself with tidying the table. Olivine let out a sigh and glanced at the parcel. A lump formed in her throat. What is happening to my friendship with Hazel, she wondered. When she and Hazel were young, they were inseparable despite how different they were. As a cactus wren, Hazel was naturally curious. She was always off exploring the wash and the river. She loved to fly up high and see how vast the world was. But Olivine preferred to stay home. And she never liked to fly as she had a fear of heights. And yet they were best friends. Olivine loved rummaging through the treasures that Hazel found on her excursions. Likewise, Hazel loved getting to sample Olivine's experimental jellies. But things were changing. Hazel had taken a job as a travel writer for the Gold Poppy Post. Now she would be gone for long periods of time. Without Hazel around, life was so lonely and humdrum. Day by day, Olivine was finding it harder and harder to bother with her jelly business. For one thing, she still hadn't designed her labels yet. What did it matter? She didn't have the money to print them anyhow. Olivine set out the last jar and watched as critters passed the tent without so much as a glance at the jelly. She sighed again. Hazel, she thought, is likely having the time of her life. But Olivine could not have been more wrong. Hazel's trip to the canyons had taken a serious turn for the worse. And that is the end of chapter 1. So we will get together again in chapter 2.